Reportedly, the Bulls are looking to re-sign Nikola Vucevic on a 3-year deal. We're going to talk about why the importance of the 3 years is there, and we're going to talk about possible center replacements if Vooch does not reach an agreement to re-sign with the Chicago Bulls. We're going to go into all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
All right, Bulls fans, welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm Haize. You can follow me right off the top at CEO Haize. That's CEO Haize. You can also follow the show at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform that we are on. But let's go ahead and get into it. So it came out yesterday that the Bulls are more so eyeing a 3-year deal with Nikola Vucevic in their contract extension talks. Now, if you remember correctly, back when it first was released that the Bulls are opening contract discussions with Nikola Vucevic, I marked a 3-year deal as being the kind of the smartest bet there, right? Yes, it does put you outside of the timeline of when Lonzo Ball's contract ends and comes off the books, but at that point you make Nikola Vucevic an expiring contract, and it is possibly movable at that point in time. I think the 3-year mark for that in the Chicago Bulls, it just makes the most sense. You have an aging center that, while his game is not based anywhere remotely on athleticism, you lock him in for 3 years. You can move on from him at that point in time if you need to, right? All those things still are in place. And it's not long-term money. Now, we don't know the exact number on the deal yet. So, right, he could be re-signing, and I do think if it's not going to be 4 years or the full 5-year extension, he's going to probably get closer to $20 million than maybe the 18.5 I was initially hoping that they could re-sign Nikola Vucevic for. But at the end of the day, you're still getting a top 10, and like I said, more like top 6 center in the NBA, even though some Bulls fans will have you believe Nikola Vucevic is horrible, and you're getting a player, locking him in throughout. At that point in time, his contract will end after his 35-year-old season. So, and I know the prospect of paying a big man $20+ million at 35, it brings its own set of questions and things like that. But listen, as much as some Bulls fans shit on Nikola Vucevic, Vooch is not a bad player. And yes, he has his limitations defensively. We all know that. But I think that locking him in for 3 years, using hopefully those 3 years to find his eventual replacement as well, whether you do it with your next year's draft pick in 2024 when you own your own first-round pick or whatever you do, that gives you a timeline to say, hey, we have a center in here who's a double-double machine who's going to come in and give us at least that. Yeah, we need to support him better with having better defenders around him and next to him. But at the end of the day, you lock in a double-double machine for 3 years, and it gives you that amount of time to figure out, survey the landscape, right? See if you can find another young center that you can develop or anything like that over that time. I think this is the smartest deal. And I think no matter what, if they end up moving on from DeMar or anybody else, like Vooch is one of those centers that can fit on any roster, right? Yes, he has his limitations. Offensively, he can fit on any roster. We actually have a voicemail as well today that gets into kind of what some of the ways that I would like to see Vooch used at times, and we'll talk about how the Bulls can maximize that investment going forward. But ultimately, the 3-year deal sounds about right for Nikola Vucevic. I don't have any qualms. I don't have any issues with that, so to say. It just really comes down next. All right, what's the number? And I think we're probably going to get a decision announced about the Nikola Vucevic contract. Now that we're starting to hear years, terms are starting to come out. Do not be surprised if a Nikola Vucevic deal is done prior to the draft. And so, that I think they're going to have that locked in. That leaves us about 18 days to get that locked in, even though we have to the 30th, right? So that's not a official deadline as the NBA draft. Officially, we have until the 30th to get that done. So ultimately, I think they're going to get it done, and I think as we're hearing that there's more confidence and motivation from both sides to get that deal done on top of that. Now, I do want to talk about as well, who are some replacements for Vooch if Vooch does leave, right? And there's 2 of them. It's the same 2 that we've talked about. If Vooch decides not to re-sign with the Bulls, yes, they can work out signing trades and all that, but if they cannot reach a contract extension, the Bulls need to immediately pivot to Naz Reid. Naz Reid, period. And so the reason why I say that is that Naz Reid last season averaged 11.5 points per game, 4.9 rebounds per game, and right under a block per game. But his numbers adjusted to a starting role. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to hit that per se. It's 22 points, 9.6 rebounds, 2.2 assists, in 36 minutes. Now, again, the per 36 number is not a whole number. I hate it when people try to use that as saying, this is what that player will average with 36 minutes. That's not what it means. It basically means that with a larger role, it tries to project that. Very rarely does a player hit that, even when their minutes do increase. But Naz Reid has shown the upside, and he's a 36% three-point shooter. And with the way that Billy Donovan likes to use, I know not every center needs to shoot threes, but Naz Reid has shown a propensity and ability to hit threes at a high level. And because Naz Reid is also an unrestricted free agent, since he was an undrafted rookie, the Bulls have a chance to kind of swoop in there and maybe use that full mid-level exception to try to steal Naz Reid away. Now, I do not think that Naz Reid brings you everything Vooch brings you. I think he's a more active defender as well, a better rim protector. I think a more active rim protector. He's smaller, which I guess may play into what Billy Donovan wants to do anyway. But I look at Naz Reid as saying Naz Reid absolutely is a potential replacement for Vooch if Vooch does walk. Let me be clear. First thing, re-sign Vooch. If you can't re-sign Vooch, then pivot to Naz Reid. Hell, I would even say, even if you do re-sign Vooch, pivot to Naz Reid anyway and try to bring him in as your backup. But all right. And then the next one is Jakob Poeltl. You guys know, I've talked about Jakob Poeltl all offseason, right? He is the number one center free agent target on the market if Vooch leaves. That just is. When you look at what he brings defensively, offensively, rebounding-wise, the ability to pass, he brings a little bit of everything. Is he the scorer Vooch is? Hell no. Is he a better defender than Vooch is? Yes. Is he as good of a passer as Vooch is? No, but he's a solid enough passer at that center position as well that I think you don't lose too much there in the passing game. And I've told you guys, if you key in and watch the games, Vooch's ability to pass is a big part of the Chicago Bulls offense, especially when we're rocking and rolling and playing good and winning big games. So because of that, just replacing Vooch with just a center that can defend and rebound but can't also pass would absolutely hurt the spacing hugely on this team, and I think it would hurt more than the defense would help at times. So Jakob Poeltl, a great player, and I would really love to see, if the Bulls don't re-sign Nikola Vucevic, to take a look at Poeltl. But all right, let's move off of that. It's Sunday, weekend, so you know it's Mailbag. We're going to get into this first voicemail. This one's from Matt.
Yo, what's going on, Haize? This is Matt calling from the 847. It's kind of just a question I've been thinking about lately. Love the show, too, man. Just want to put that in there. But real quick, I got to kind of clap at a caller I seen on the show on the 3rd. I think his name was Freeway. He had a three-way trade with the Jazz and the Lakers and the Bulls, right? For Malik Beasley and Vanderbilt, I believe it was. And that kind of piggybacked to like something I was already thinking. We're talking about maybe trading Zach LaVine for like the 3rd pick in Portland or something like that. I think we're undervaluing Zach LaVine, and we get to watch him all the time, so we're putting this value on him. But I think other teams would look at Zach LaVine a little bit more than I think we expect. Maybe not a lot more, but I mean, you see teams unloading the entire ship for a star, right? A number one, KD, anyone like that. I mean, it could be 5 draft picks. It could be players, 3 draft picks. You know what I mean? But for a number 2 on a team that I think most teams would probably look at Zach LaVine as, he'd still give up a decent amount for those players. Zach LaVine, he's dealt with some injuries. I mean, the situation is like good sometimes and bad sometimes for him in Chicago. Like, he could possibly excel a little bit better into somewhere else. I think Zach LaVine for Anthony Simons and the 3rd pick, and we have to give them their pick back. I mean, that should maybe just be the deal right there. And if anything, we might need it sweetened a little bit more for us if they want anything else, you know? I think other teams might be thinking that way too. So what do you think about Zach's actual value in the market? And, you know, between how we're valuing Zach right now, especially when we keep tying ourselves to maybe making a move with Portland, we really have to think about, we have all the cards on Portland. I mean, they can trade this year's picks. That's it. So I don't think we, you know, if we have to get Patrick Williams, you know, or Ayo or Kobe and Zach and the pick just to get like 3, Scoot could very well be a generational talent. So could Brandon Miller. They could be franchise leading talents, but that's a could be. Like, Zach's already shown that he can help lead a team. He might not be like the alpha leader but he can help lead a team on the court. And I don't know, that's just what we got to think about him, man. You got to take care of that.
And this is something that I have always said. When you are looking at your own players, you do one of two things. You overvalue or you undervalue. Are Bulls fans some undervaluing Zach LaVine? Yes, because we see him every single day. We see his faults, we see his mistakes, we see his shortcomings, and those get magnified. Zach LaVine is absolutely one of the best scorers in the NBA and is becoming, at least last season, a more active and consistent defender once he was healthy. So yes, do Bulls fans undervalue Zach? Abso-freaking-lutely. Was that voicemail that we got the other day about that trade for Zach underwhelming? Absolutely, right? You got to stop undervaluing Zach LaVine. We have to stop thinking that just because, yes, Zach LaVine has some issues with turnovers, especially in crunch time. You got to stop because Zach LaVine isn't a lockdown defender, making it seem like Zach, you're going to trade Zach for pennies on the dollar. No, Zach LaVine is a max contract player. And I don't care what anybody else says. If nothing else, scoring alone was going to get him the max that he can get from almost any other team. And so I love what you said there. Now, as far as the deal, LaVine for Simons in the third. Here's what I'll say with that. That's probably more realistic than some people think. I think as well as the Bulls were moving, because people say it as we have their pick. We don't have their pick. We have protections on their pick, and that's what makes that's kind of in a way even more hurtful for the Portland Trailblazers is because if we just had their pick outright, they can say, all right, well, cool, we don't have that pick. We can trade 2 picks down the road. They can't do that because we have protections on that pick all the way up to 2028. So, but I just look at it and I say this, right? The number 3 overall pick, I think that if Portland moves on from that, they're going to also want to secure their future some. Yes, they're looking to move that pick to add a team around a Dame now, right? But they also are going to want some type of protection to if it does not work out and Dame does leave in 3 years or whatever, they have some future picks. And the one thing the Bulls can't offer is really any future picks. Even us removing the protections from Portland's pick, they're probably then going to use a couple of those to get other guys. And then at that point, you're looking at, the Bulls maybe adding in a 2029 first-round pick, which I think is the next one that we can offer. But even then, I think the other teams are going to be able to be willing to offer more, especially if it is Scoot Henderson there, right? It really hinges on that. If the Hornets continue to do Hornet-like things and pass up on Scoot Henderson, the Portland Trailblazers phone is going to be ringing. It's going to be buzzing. And there's going to be a lot of teams that have a lot of future picks as well. Like, look at the Utah Jazz. They have so many picks that they just realistically will not be able to take from now until 2029. The Utah Jazz can offer them to say, hey, we can give you some pieces that can work for you now around Dame, and because we're getting Scoot, we can send you guys off. One of my lights died. We can send you guys a future 2028, 2029 pick. We got a whole bunch of them. Which one you want, right? And at that point, the Bulls can't really compete with a team that can give them pieces now and pieces in the future. So it really depends. Like, the Portland Trailblazers will really have to look at Zach and say, no, this is the guy we want next to Dame. And I think that they had a similar player in C.J. McCollum, and they've already seen that may not work. I think that's why you're hearing that in the Trailblazers in this trade, they are looking more so for a two-way wing than just another scorer, so to say, right? But again, it remains to be seen what we're going to do. Hey, we'll see, man. If the Bulls get a move done for the number 3 overall pick, the way that I'm going to be ecstatic and on this show screaming my lungs out, just be prepared. All right, moving on. We got Shay up next. Let's go and play that voicemail now.
What's up, Haize? This is Shay. Have we reached the point where the super team era is basically dead? Now, look, I'm not saying that super teams ain't going to exist no more, but with the Miami Heat making it to the finals and Nikola Vucevic and the Denver Nuggets making it to the finals, and for the past couple of seasons, we've been witnessing some teams make it without a lot of super teams, Have we now reached the era of the death of the super teams? Anyway, tell me what you think. Peace.
All right, so this is a question that a lot of people ask. Is the super team era done? I say that the man-made super team era is done. The times where you get to play, I want to play with this guy, I want to play with that guy, or the team that just thinks, I could trade for these 2 stars, and boom, we're off to the races. I think that era is done. I think the new salary cap situation with the new CBA is going to push that, and I also think GMs are just going to start being smarter. We saw just this past year so many man-made super teams fail, either by not getting far in the playoffs or forcing their way out via trade. So I think it's going to change some. I think we're going to see the more organic super teams built over time is what I think we'll see with this new version of the CBA and this new era that we're moving towards in basketball. I think that's what we'll see. But all right, let's get into the next voicemail. This one's from Corey Mays.
What up, Haize? It's Marvelous Corey Mays. I always hit you with the hey, Haize. I got a question. My question is, I got a couple of trades, and I was looking at, and I just want to hear your thoughts. I got a three-way trade. The three-way trade is the Bulls, the Mavericks, and the Lakers. The Lakers receive Kyrie Irving and a future second-round pick from Chicago. I guess like maybe 2026. The Mavericks get Nikola Vucevic, Jared Vanderbilt, and Rui Hachimura. We get Christian Wood and a top 10 pick for this year's draft. I don't know, man. Don't no team say no to that. Sound like a good trade to me. My second trade is the Bulls and the Trailblazers. Now, the Trailblazers get DeMar DeRozan, Alex Caruso, and for a sweetener, we throw them they pick that. So they don't have to worry about that no more. That 2024. We get that number 3 pick, Cam Reddish, Kevin Knox, and that Simmons boy. What is it, Anthony Simmons? Yeah. And Cam Reddish is an unrestricted free agent, so they can sign him, make the money work. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on that trade. And my last trade theory and idea that I have, the Bulls trade Zach LaVine to the Hornets. We get Mark Williams, P.J. Washington, and we take that bad contract of Gordon Hayward and the number 2 pick. They get Zach LaVine. They can pair him with LaMelo Ball. I don't know, man. Sound like some...
All right, Corey, what? Bro, what you smoking, man? Like, what are you indeed smoking? Let's go through these deals. Trade 1. The Lakers get Kyrie Irving in the 2nd pick. The Mavs get Vooch, Vanderbilt, and Rui Hachimura, and the Bulls get Christian Wood and the number 10 pick. All right, listen. While I think that you put together a fairly, I guess, realistic deal in a way, but the Mavs have already come out and said they ain't helping Kyrie Irving get his sign and trade. They're not trying to facilitate that, right? And I understand that. Now, I do think that could be the team playing hardball, and eventually we could see that done anyway. But at the end of the day, I don't know. That's a lot of moving pieces, and that's a lot of sign-and trades, right? And we don't really see that level of sign-and trades done where you're getting multiple teams involved, and multiple of those players are being signed and traded amongst 3 teams. That's really hard to do. It's happened before, but it's really hard to do. Your trade number 2, DeMar and Caruso, and removing the protections on the pick for Cam Reddish, Knox, and do you hate the Bulls? Like, don't get me wrong, the number 3 pick may make that worth it, right? But again, Portland Trail Blazers are looking for a 2-way wing. Now, Caruso's if you combine Caruso, if they did the fusion dance and you combine Caruso and DeMar, okay, maybe then you could talk, right? I just don't know that that's going to be the level of deal that's needed. I'll say this. If the Bulls can trade just DeMar and Caruso and get the number 3 pick and Anthony Simons, hey, you do that every day. Now, how does Simons fit next to LaVine is a big question there, but all right, next up, Mark Williams, P.J. Washington, and Gordon Hayward for the number 2 in LaVine. I know the Hornets are a completely idiotic franchise. Do not get me wrong with that. But that would be a fleet. And LaVine? Come on, man. Hey, listen. I hope your 2K, my career, my franchise, whatever it is called now, my league. I hope that mug is off to my GM, whatever it's called. I hope you're off and running. I really hope that you are having fun with that young fella. All right, let's move into the next voicemail. This one is from Michael Korn.
Hey, Michael Korn here. Another question for your mailbag this weekend to you and your listeners. This a day before the second game of the finals, but I've been thinking about the Bulls game in Denver this year and how they played, which was with that in mind, Vucevic, the Vooch, no one knows whether he's gonna, stay on the team. In fact, no one really knows, as a reflection of the Bulls, by the way, like not really knowing or having a clue what they're gonna do or what they need next, if they can achieve that, really shows they're on they lack a trajectory towards a championship team at this point, obviously. And like, I don't even know if they have a clue, like how to get, to be a sixth seed at this point. But in any case, my thinking, the question I have was about the Vooch. If they retain him, what do you think his ability to be a point player on the Bulls offense? You'll always hear like, "Hey, get the ball into Vooch." Yeah, but that's someone at the point getting it to him. But what about him? Similar to Jokic's game, being more a force and being more active with the ball, and then trying to get it to LaVine. So keeping up the same shooting, same rebounds, but maybe his assists go up to 5 or 6 a game or something like that. And I would like to know your thoughts, and the listeners' thoughts, if Vooch could actually be a point center, point forward, in the mold of a Jokic or a Jokic light. Anyway, thank you. Love the show. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Listen, Mike, I agree with you 100% here. I do think that if you can use Vooch in a more straightforward point center type role, I think that helps a couple. I think at that point, starting Kobe White makes the most sense, because at that point you can use Kobe White in a Jamal Murray type role, and then you can have Vooch. Now, Vooch is not the passer that Jokic is. Vooch is a very good passer and a high IQ offensive player as well. Let me be clear there. But he's not the passer that Jokic is. But I do think that you can get away, especially with running some sets like that. I do think that you can get away with running that against certain teams and for certain periods of time. I absolutely think that you could do that, and I would love to see Nikola Vucevic used in that way. But unfortunately, we have Billy Donovan as a head coach. And Billy Donovan making that adjustment, I just don't know if he's equipped, ready, or able to make that type of adjustment. But I would love to see. I think that could be a great role for Vooch, and you can optimize your shooters out on the perimeter and some of your off-ball actions at that point in time as well. I think that would be an amazing adjustment for the Bulls to make internally to change up this roster some and the flow, and it helps some players kind of learn to move and operate off the ball. Now, we still have our issues with, at times, some of the players on this roster just do not move off the ball. And I think that, once you get that going, players can start understanding the importance of that. And I would love for us to run that type of system. I just don't know if it's coming, Michael Korn, but I think that that's a great observation. I think it's a great idea. And because it's a great idea, I don't know if Billy Donovan's going to do it. All right, let's move into this next one. This one's from Buddy Love.
Yo, what up, Haize? What's going on? This is Buddy Love again, coming at you with a hot take just to see what you think. Now, I know a lot of Eastern Conference teams, especially like rival teams, they don't traditionally make trades with each other, but I'm just watching, the playoffs and all that, and I'm just thinking, what if the Bulls were to get rid of, like, Zach LaVine? Let's just say they call Boston and see about some pieces that they got over there, like a Marcus Smart, Al Horford, and if you can get a couple draft picks, I don't know. I think they'll roll with a Zach LaVine, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum, trio over there. But I'm just thinking, like, it's a couple moves that we definitely can make during this offseason, even if it's just, for a point guard, a low-budget big man. I think Schroeder will be a nice addition to the team. And even if you just sign a veteran big man, just to, if you don't keep drumming, per se. But, yeah, let me know what you think, man.
All right, fam. Listen, y'all got to stop. Like, real talk, stop the trade on Zach LaVine for Marcus Smart and Al Horford. Marcus Smart and Al Horford. Listen. Man, what are y'all doing to me, man? Like, what are we doing here? What, buddy, listen. Man, stop undervaluing our players. If you're going to trade Zach LaVine, you're going to get a whole lot back than Marcus Smart and Al Horford. And that's not to say that either player is terrible. Al Horford had a really tough series, and I think we're starting to see Al Horford age. But you can get a lot more back for Zach LaVine than that. That goes back to that first voicemail. We got to stop undervaluing Zach. That's not a trade that makes the Bulls better at all. At all. You added a defender, cool, and Marcus Smart, but at that point you took away one of your biggest offensive weapons and created a new issue. No. No, that's not it. This ain't it. This ain't it. We ain't them. That's not. Wow. Wow. That's a way to end on a Sunday, right? That's the last voicemail for today. I'll see you guys again on Monday. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related because of you guys. And like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, even though we have no red light. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.